Well, welcome. Tonight, we're going to talk with 5 people who I admire. Everybody seems to have an opinion on how to make things better, but there's very few people who not only have an opinion, but are willing to stand up and try and make things happen, to make things better, especially for our kids. And a lot of people, when they look at town positions, look to the selectmen, not taking anything away from them, but the school committee in Milford dictates 6 to 8 hours a day of our children's lives. And any parent out there who's had a high school kid knows you fight like heck to get 2 hours of their time, never mind 6 or 8. So, well, let's go quickly with quick introductions and then we'll start. RJ?
Hey, Al. So I'm RJ. I'm running for school committee here in Milford. I'm a town meeting member. I'm the vice chair of the Milford Democratic Town Committee. And I'm a regular up at the Dairy Queen over here on the 140.
Matt?
Hey, Al. Thanks for organizing this. I'm Matthew Zakili. For those who don't know me, I am a lifelong Milford resident. I have 3 daughters, the oldest of which is at Brookside right now, and I'm a consulting engineer.
Chris?
Al, thank you very much for having us on the show and a chance to reach out to your viewing audience. My name is Christopher Wilson. I am up for re-election for the Milford School Committee. I have currently served almost up to the 2.5, 3-year point here. And again, looking to continue on with my tenure on Milford School Committee.
Willie?
Thanks for having me on tonight. Again, for those who don't know me, my name is Wilfredo Vasquez. I go by Willie. I've lived in Milford for 13 years now. I have 3 young children enrolled in our district, and I really care what's happening in our schools. I think our district has problems that need immediate attention, and my children don't have the time to waste, as I think they're in the most critical phase of their educational journey. So tonight, I hope to lay out a plan as to how I feel I can help the school district and overcome some of the issues that I think exist in the school community.
And Meg?
Good evening. Thanks, Al. Appreciate you having us on. My name is Megan Hornberger. I am first and most importantly, the mom to 3 boys, an 8th grader, a 2nd grader, and an incoming kindergartner. I'm a certified public accountant in the state of Massachusetts. I was born and raised in Milford. I've been volunteering in the district since my oldest started kindergarten, and I'm proudly serving as the current vice chairperson of our school committee.
Okay, you're all familiar. We start our show and end our show with the same question. So RJ, I'm from Milford. Why should I vote for you?
You should vote for me for school committee because I think that my unique perspective and knowledge will bring a clear value to the school committee as we face the challenges ahead. I have a unique perspective on the issues as both a recent Milford High School graduate and as someone trying to continue his education. Honestly, I faced many of the same difficulties and challenges as our students, and my viewpoints on the issues are, I think, valuable, and it's not one that's currently present at the school committee. Additionally, as someone who has been a town meeting member for the last 3 years, and as someone who has filmed the school committee meetings for years as a high school student, I have a lot of knowledge on the functions of the school committee, as well as other aspects of our town government. And honestly, when it comes to the school committee, I know that a member's responsibilities lie mainly on policy, budgeting, and certain hiring and firing and certain staffing decisions. And honestly, I believe that this knowledge is crucial for anyone asking for your vote to know. And that's why I'm putting myself up as a candidate and why I have the confidence to run and ask for your vote.
Matt, I'm from Milford. Why should I vote for you?
Thanks, Al. Well, look, I have a lot of pride in our community. I think we have a strong community. I think we have good schools. I think we have great teachers. We certainly have some things that need to be addressed immediately, but I believe that what we need the most right now with our school committee and with our administration is a bit more of a forward focus. We are making progress as a district, but I think we could be making progress more quickly and probably more efficiently as well. We need somebody on our school committee that can leave emotion at the door, that can leave personal desires at the door, because we have a highly diverse community and not every decision is going to be best for everybody. We have to do what's best for most. Now, my background in management information systems has lent me to a lot of experience with educational institutions, universities, public schools, private schools. And I've learned a lot about what it takes to move initiatives forward, especially in a more municipal state where it can be a little bit muddy and slow at times. So I believe my experience can guide me as I help the focus of the school committee administration perhaps shift and evolve a little bit more towards being strategic with a lot of our objectives. And I think our community deserves nothing less, and that's what I hope to bring.
I'm going to ask everybody to hit their mute button because we're getting feedback until you're called on to talk. Sounds like a school teacher. Ah, there we go. Now it's nice and quiet. Chris, I'm from Milford. Why should I vote for you?
Well, I'd like to just, again, continue using the experience that I've learned over the last couple of years on my role as school committee. I want to continue to oversee the superintendent. I want to continue to oversee the budget, continue to review and create policy that is based to be in the best educational value towards our students throughout the district. And also, it's important during this time of, as far as negotiating with the various unions within our district. So, I've been invested in this community for the last 20 years. I've got a son that's a junior and a daughter that's a freshman, and they both started at Shining Star. So I've, have seen the different aspects of the school communities throughout. I've served on the school councils, which springboarded my wanting to serve on school committee 3 years ago. So again, I just want to continue to use that experience level that I've learned. And during this COVID time, I think it's going to be important to use this experience to kind of assess where we are and where we're going to go in the next few years.
Willie, I'm from Milford. Why should I vote for you? Willie, you're muted. Unmute.
Sorry about that.
No
I'm new
problem.
at this. I'm still trying to figure it all out. Excuse me, but the reason you should vote for me is because I feel that one of the biggest concerns our communities face today is the fact that our district local revenue contribution has been flat for 17 years. So let me explain this. School budgets are funded by two sources. The first source is from state funds known as Chapter 78. And the second source of revenue funding is from local tax revenues, mainly from property taxes. The state of Mass has a formula to determine what each town or city receives based on the needs and demographics of the community. If you look at what the state has been giving Milford in aid, you will notice that the state has realized the needs and demographics of Milford School District. The state has increased the aid it gives Milford dramatically year after year as our population has evolved. This is all public information available to everyone online or on the town hall. For example, in 2004, the state gave Milford $9 million in aid. In 2014, the state doubled that and gave the town of Milford $19 million. And in 2021, $31 million in aid was received. The increase was due to our community's needs and demographics, such as 61% of the kids in Milford's school system are rated as high needs children, and 46% of the children in Milford are considered economically disadvantaged. State funding has increased over 300% during this time to meet those needs. But now when you look at the local contributions from the town of Milford, you will notice that we have not increased our local school budget contribution since 2004. And this is what the district is up against. In 2004, the local contribution to the school budget was $21 million. And in 2021, 17 years later, we're still contributing the same amount, $21 million. I know, just let that sink in. As a community, we're still investing the same amount of money as we did in 2004. We must understand that our district has higher overall enrollment, a higher needs-based population than we did in 2004. And we must do more than allocate the same amount of money that we've been doing for 17 years ago. Does that make sense to anyone? Why hasn't anyone pushed back on this? And why isn't it a focal point of the community? I believe it is urgent that as a community, we realize that our enrollment has increased and our demographics has changed. And bottom line is that we're not simply appropriately supporting our school district's growth. Vote for me because I will build relationships with our finance committee. And as a community, we must work to increase our investments into the school district. We need to build a long-term plan for our school budget with the support from the town. I'm the candidate with the experience, the vision, and the courage to get this done. And that's why you should vote for me.
Thank you. Meg, I'm from Milford. Why should I vote for you?
Absolutely. I hope that you will vote for me on April 6th because I'm a hard worker, I'm an active listener, and I'm an effective collaborator. And I believe I bring experience to the table at a time that it's needed most. It also didn't dawn on me until we were all here together. I'm actually also the only female candidate, and I would love to serve as a role model to young females to know that anything is possible and we deserve a seat at the table.
Thank you. Matt, we'll start with you on question number 2. There's been a lot of discussion about getting kids back into the classroom. And how do we do that, balancing safety against learning? What are your thoughts?
Well, Al, I'm gonna focus on looking forward, so that we don't get too caught up in any past decisions. It's important that our kids are in school. I don't think you're going to find anyone who believes otherwise. They need to be there. They're the safest there. They do the best there. We know how important that is. But we also obviously owe it to our community to not be the reason to have any more increases in our population. Now, the numbers are low. I saw the dashboard. I actually have it here, that was released today. Everything looks great. There's no reason why we can't be back in, and it's great to know that we're going to be starting back with our hybrid model just next week. What I would like to see more of, quite frankly, from the school committee standpoint, what I would hope to contribute if I do get elected in April, is to have more forceful pressure on our administration and on our superintendent to be more proactive. For example, I'm extremely frustrated that it took until last meeting for our administration to start planning and doing the research in terms of what our classrooms look like with 6 feet versus 3 feet, or what the bus routes are going to look like now that we can put 2 kids on a seat instead of 1, or how lunch is going to work. If we were focused forward a bit more, if we were looking up back in August, and if we were working on the plans for 6 feet, which I actually was under the impression that was supposed to be done from the state, a hybrid, a full remote, and a full in-person, we should have been also planning for the next steps. We knew we were going to have hybrid. We knew we were probably going to have remote, but it felt as though it was an afterthought just until last meeting that there would be a transition between what we had to getting kids back in school full time. So I do think that the real question here should be, are we doing everything we can to get our kids back in school as soon as possible? And I'm glad we're doing those things. I'm glad we're taking those steps, and that Dr. McIntyre has started the ball rolling. I certainly just wish that was something that happened sooner.
Chris, your thoughts on getting children back into the classroom?
Well, I think like every parent out there, we want our students and our children back into the classroom 5 days a week. Unfortunately, COVID is still a very serious infection rate, and it's a very serious illness that can occur. So, we have to follow CDC guidelines, and right now those CDC guidelines still put us at 6 feet apart. I know the DESE, the Department of Education, has said, we can go down to 3 feet, but I think that we really have to be cautious with that. We're rolling forward with vaccine plans. We know that the social distancing, washing of our hands, and staying 6 feet apart works. So again, I don't think just because, things look good, that the numbers are dropping, that we can just start adding students into the room. We certainly are looking towards that. We're looking at planning, and we're looking at timelines associated with that. And certainly we have to look at the classrooms to see what the classroom structures will allow for. Not every classroom out there has 20 students where we broke them up into 10 in cohort A and 10 in cohort B. Some have more than 20 students. So if a class can only have 20 students in it, if we were at 3 feet, what do we do with the additional students that need to be in that class? So there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle that we need to look at. And, and we need to, it's going to take time, and we have to ensure the safety of students and of staff. And again, we have to also look at the rollout of the vaccine, because we're following the science, and the science says COVID is still serious and we have to take precautions. But we also, I understand the frustration from parents of wanting to get their students back into the class full time.
Thank you. Willie, your thoughts on getting our students back into the classroom?
I think everyone agrees that we need to get the children back to school. COVID has definitely been challenging for everyone. It's that simple. Are people happy about what's been happening? I think clearly that's a no, and this is evident with how the community is reacting. COVID has caused strain on working parents in many ways. Teachers have had to adjust to all the shifting schedules and dynamics. And I think the mental fatigue on our children has been immense. My son cries some days knowing he has to sit in front of his computer all day. But I think COVID will have an ending, and I cannot control how it plays out. This is up to the current school committee members. What I can say is if you look at how the COVID situation was handled, it has created a very big disconnect between our school committee, parents, and teachers. What I can control as a school committee member is making sure that when the community speaks, they are heard. But I feel the bigger long-term issue is that the fact is that as a community, we have not increased our local contribution to the budget in over 17 years. Also, per the most recent facilities report conducted in 2018 by the New England Council of School Committees, they have recommended that we either replace both Stacy Middle School and Milford High School or create a significant capital investment plan for renovations. In order to accomplish these goals in a speedy manner, collaboration and leadership are needed in our community. We cannot waste any more time. I will work to build the bridges, bring the school committee together so we can focus on the long-term issues this community has. We need to immediately file a statement of intent with the state, have a feasibility study conducted. If you want someone who will prioritize the long-term issues of the school district, then vote for me. I have the experience, the vision, and the courage to get this done.
Meg, your thoughts on getting the children back into the classroom?
Sure. Kids need to be in school right now, just period, right? That's absolutely the goal for all of us. It's the goal for our teachers. It's the goal for our administration, 100%. I think it's been an evolving situation. You know, it's interesting to me when I first ran for school committee, like Chris 3 years ago, the question everyone wanted to ask is, you know, what would you do with Prop 2.5? No one asked, what would you do in the middle of a worldwide pandemic? And, you know, I think the situation has been evolving and we're working to adapt to it. We want these children back. And I think the piece of advocacy that we're working on now, which is incredibly important, is ensuring that our teachers are lined up, you know, as soon as possible to get that vaccine so everyone can get back in the buildings. Thank you.
RJ, your thoughts on getting kids back in the classroom?
So my thoughts, personally, what I think is that obviously knowing as someone who's trying to continue his education, that students obviously do learn best when they're in the classroom. I think our students should be back in the classroom safely. It has to be done safely. It has to be done with the consideration of everybody involved in the school community, what the students think is best for them and their families, what the teachers and our staff and administrators think what's best for them and their families. Bottom line, the goal should be to get our students back to in-person learning. We have to come together in a really positive way to make that possibility happen. And another feeling that I have on this, just to throw this out there, I feel like there's been a lot of misdirection of feelings on schools not being open towards the school committee. And Chris and Meg know this. As a school committee member, you don't call a snow day. And as a school committee member, you don't say when school can be open because of COVID. That's somebody else's decision. So, you know, I have a lot of feelings. Feelings don't really matter on this, as me as being a school committee member would be concerned. But to answer your question, I do think, you know, the COVID learning situation has been very difficult for everybody. I think there's been some hidden positives that's been brought through this. And obviously kids learn best in person. So we should do what we can as a community to safely bring them back in person.
Thank you, RJ. Chris, I'm going to let you start this one off. What are the three biggest challenges? We may have just talked about one. But,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say what's the biggest animal next to the elephant standing next to you, but what are the three biggest challenges you think the next school committee administration will fall into?
Yeah, certainly. Obviously, as we just heard, it's COVID now and COVID in the future. You know, COVID now to me is what are the plans to get back to more learning time, more face-to-face learning time for our students? You know, certainly we started in the hybrid model, we transitioned to the remote model. Now we're back to the hybrid model. So what are our next steps? And, you know, and we need to lay out what those next steps can be and what the time frame will be for those next steps. Secondly, what are the effects of COVID on education? You know, we know that the teaching environment is far different, you know, so we need to be able to assess what student learning has been like over the last year And we need to ensure that we can, if students are behind, we have to come up with plans and be able to support those students to be able to catch up to the academic standards that we have set forth. The third thing would be to look at our facilities. You know, Mr. Vasquez just had mentioned that, and certainly the statement of interest for what we would presume would be Milford High School. That's going to be an important factor from a long range side of it. COVID has obviously has a significant effect in the statements of interest, but we still need to be looking at those statements of interest and move things forward, because, you know, the process to, you know, begin a new school and to construct a new school is a very long and arduous process.
Okay, Willie, 3 biggest challenges you see facing the school committee.
Just speaking with many parents, students, teachers, and administrators, I feel the 3 largest challenges facing our school system are as follows. The town has not increased its local contribution to its school budget in the last 17 years. It still stands at $21 million, while the community has grown, and so has its needs. 61% of kids in Milford are classified as high needs. Again, 61% of kids in Milford are classified as high needs children. We need to be supporting our schools. We need proper investments to support the needs of our children. With my experience, I can help bring awareness to these issues, and I can help work close this gap. Second, facilities, Stacy Middle School and the high school. A lot of people in town have concerns about these facilities. In April of 2008, the district conducted a facilities evaluation, which was completed by the New England School District Council. Let me share their conclusions. It is clear that Milford High School and Stacy Middle School require attention through either renovation or new buildings. The completion of the newly built Woodland Elementary School demonstrates how thoughtful building design and use of space could positively impact educational programming. The next decision for Milford School Committee and the town of Milford is to determine whether to develop a statement of interest that is solely focused on a high school renovation project, or also explore the option of a combined complex that will address the needs of both facilities. In April, it will be 3 years since this report was conducted, and we have not begun that feasibility study. I repeat that again, we still have not begun that feasibility study. In a world of education and state funding, these projects take a long time. It took over 10 years to build Woodland. This is time our children don't have, my children don't have. I will provide a sense of urgency, fiscal responsibility, and an immediate focus on investing properly into our buildings. And the biggest concern is just a sense of urgency of all. I've outlined 2 of my bigger concerns that require immediate attention. I will provide the transparency and fiscal responsibility to our school committee, the same urgency I feel from all the moms and dads I speak with. The time to act is now. We are behind as a community, and we have been under investing in our schools for over 17 years. I'm not making these numbers up. The facts are there for everyone to see. A school committee must be responsive to all its constituencies and governance, sensitive to the diverse needs of people in the community, an advocate for the students and learning before the people of the community, and as such, a vigorous ambassador for the education before all citizens. This is who I will be if you vote for me.
Thank you. Meg, the 3 biggest challenges the next school committee will face.
Sure. Thanks, Al. So I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention COVID. I would love to say it's going to be gone by fall, but I think it may potentially still be something we're dealing with in some capacity. That said, I think, moving beyond that, long-term strategic planning, both on the educational front and on the facilities and infrastructure front, is an area we're going to be spending an incredible amount of time, and obviously needs to be a focus point for the group. And then I would say second to that is really improving post-secondary success. I think the high school principal, Mr. Otland, has opened my eyes in terms of, college graduation rates nationwide are around 65%. 65% of kids who go to college are graduating. And Milford has, a percentage that doesn't even go to school. And so what are we doing as a community and as a district to improve lifelong success for these students? And that starts in the early grades. And so I would love to just be working harder to incorporate that into many opportunities. And, we're already doing that in terms of investing in our science labs, our Project Lead the Way, and our biomedical courses. But I would love to be making additional strides in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. RJ, 3 biggest challenges for the new school committee.
So the three biggest challenges, obviously the first one's COVID. If I could say COVID's the top three biggest challenges, I would, but that would be a stupid answer. So COVID obviously is the biggest challenge we have as a district. I would love to say the challenge and the problems are gone once we open back up the buildings and send our students back to school full time, but that's not the case. Once we do send our students back to school full time, there's going to be a lot of catch up work we're going to have to do. We're going to have to make sure that a lot of lost learning that happened virtually, our students get caught up on. We have to make sure we rebuild the social emotional learning aspect of our students that may have fallen behind while they've been stuck behind their computer screens for so long. So, COVID is obviously a big concern. All both past what's happened in the past, where can we rebuild from this? Present, what's happening right now, and future, where are we going forward on? The second biggest thing would obviously be serving our diverse populations. We have a lot of people in our district who are either EL students or are special needs. And obviously, we need to do everything we can as a district to make sure that they have the support systems and services that they need to be successful, both while they're in our schools and when they graduate. So obviously, I think we need to do a lot more to serve those communities. And just building off that one for my third option, I think we need to, as a district, look more into more um, vocational tech options for our students and give our students more of a pathway to have a career after high school versus going to college. There's a high number of students in town who are not taking the college path, and I think there should be more for them than just working at an Amazon warehouse maybe. And I really love that the school has put forward a initiative in the budget to have a career counselor in place of the schools. Fantastic idea. Guidance counselors bring them to the point to apply for college, write them letters and stuff. Their expertise is really not in finding a job and going out into the community and working. So I really love that. I think that's some great work that the school's already done on this. So yeah, my top three issues would be COVID, 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 COVID. Serving our EL and special needs students and making sure that our students who are not on a college pathway have options to, basically do good after school.
Thank you. Matt, the three biggest challenges.
So I'll say COVID too, just because we have to. That's an obvious right now problem that we need to address and that we need to focus on. Chris is absolutely right. Everybody's right that we need to make sure that our kids have the right support. And we know, we know the challenges that COVID has given them and how we can help them recover. I have another, obviously, an immediate need, and that is Stacy Middle School. It's something that is a hot button concern. That not just the building, but the environment as well lacks some serious leadership, and it's in a big need of a culture change now. The good news is that process for finding that leader has actually been accelerated, as I understand, and there's a committee already set to start interviewing candidates next week. So that's going to be in the past by the time many of us sit down in the new formation of the school committee. But that's a major point, and quite frankly, in talking to parents, Stacy has been a driving factor for some of our families' school choicing out of town. So. That needs to be addressed, and I'm glad it is. A little more mid-range for me is our technology. I think a pandemic has absolutely exposed the afterthought that is our technology. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of pieces being asked of our teachers to use. There's a lot of stuff that our kids have to use, and there hasn't been a whole lot of meaningful direction and guidance and road mapping to this stuff that's been able to turn these tools, which is what they are, into a value add service for our kids to enhance what they're doing and to complement what they're doing and what our teachers are doing day to day. So that certainly needs focus, and that's something that I would be very excited to help support. And then demographics, absolutely. Our town, if you look back at the numbers, is trending very specifically to higher and higher populations of our EL students, especially at the younger grades. We need to be proactive with our budgeting. We need to be facing in the right direction and forecasting to make sure that when we hit that tipping point, especially at our K-2 schools, where our EL population rises, as it has been for years and years and years, that we are not going to get caught understaffed and quite frankly, overwhelmed with the needs of these students. So, and overwhelming, by the way, is a word that I've heard from our leaders directly. The biggest challenge that they see is that at times it can be very overwhelming to make sure that we have everybody necessary to support these kids, and we must make sure that they are supported. And then, of course, throughout the run of importance is readiness after high school. We have great AP programs. We're setting our kids up for college. We should be expecting all of our kids to get there and helping them get there. But the reality is the numbers don't support it. Not everybody goes. In fact, I was told that up to 20% of our kids go right into the workforce. And then of the ones who graduate and go into college, another 20% of them don't complete that degree within 5 years. So we could potentially be sending 1 in 3 students from Milford into the workforce without any actual workforce readiness. So I'd love to see the high school start taking on some more of that stuff in biomedical and information tech and security and coding and building trades and giving these kids more exposure to maybe help their focus and help them drive some passions for what they want to do after high school. But a lot of that stuff too revolves around a high school that's going to need some updating and more than likely replacing, because even though the high school has space, it doesn't have the right space to support right now industries that are the most in demand.
Okay, thank you. Willie,
Yeah.
start this one. School choice has been a very active topic in the community. What are your thoughts on school choice?
Sure. As we all know, school choice offers, I believe, students and their families voluntary alternatives to other schools that offer things that are not offered in their own district. Its original intention was to provide access to programs being offered in those other districts that may not have otherwise been existed in their own community. I believe today's school choice in Milford is being looked at as an escape from our district. Our own administration's internal data shows a net loss of 81 kids in 2017 and 45 kids in 2019. And that's a net loss. That doesn't account for all the families that are sending their kids, because we do receive some kids that come in. Given our COVID response and the frustration I hear from parents, I am confident that this number is going to continue to grow. Putting emotions aside, school choice has a negative impact on the school's budget and must be an immediate focus of the school committee. Millions of dollars flow or follow kids from school to school annually, greatly affecting our own town's budget. And in Milford, we lose revenue every single year. We lose revenue because our kids' choice to leave our communities to other districts. We need to take an honest look and as a community decide what our district could do with the extra investments, or how to keep more kids in Milford schools. By properly investing in our schools and improving our buildings, we can create a community that wants to keep its children enrolled in our district. I will focus on making sure we are making the proper investments into the school district. I'm the candidate that looks to get this done.
Thanks. Meg.
Absolutely. Thanks, Al. So we live in America, and one of the great things about America is choice. So as a district, we opt into the school choice program. I think it's important that families have a choice. That said, I am a Milfordian. I live in Milford. I want every child who lives in Milford to want to be educated in Milford. And I am accountable to that as a school committee member and trying to make that happen. I think we have a breadth of academic and extracurricular programs, and I think we need to increase awareness about a number of them. And I think there's, improvement that we need to make in specific areas that I do believe we're working on and that we need to continue to do. So I believe, we should continue to explore school choice. In years past, we've actually had to close incoming students because we didn't have capacity in certain classes to accommodate them. But for students leaving, if you live here, I want you to be a true part of this community, and I want your children to be educated here, and I promise to work towards making that happen.
RJ, talk to me about school choice.
All right, so school choice, obviously parents have certain rights that they are awarded as parents and certain choices that they can make with their child's education. And one of those rights is choosing where to send their kids to school. Like Meg, I'm a Milfordian. I went to Milford Public Schools. I got a great education there. Look at me, I'm the product of it, I guess. So obviously I would hate it when any family chooses to send their student elsewhere. Why are our kids leaving? There's really no concrete answers. They've looked at it from all sorts of angles. They've said, oh, maybe it's, the diversity of the district, there's, they want a, more homogeneous community, or they need more services elsewhere, or there's a better athletic program elsewhere. So there's really no concrete answer as to why kids are leaving. But it is happening. So it's unfortunate. I don't want our students to go anywhere besides Milford Public Schools. And we obviously as a community needs to figure out what can we do to bring our population back into Milford Public Schools. Is there certain things that we need to advertise and communicate with our families to show them, yes, our schools are good. Yes, you're going to get a good education here. And yes, they're going to have a good future from it. I mean, school choice is a very complicated issue, and I wish I had the answers, but there's no concrete reason why kids are leaving, and the reasons why are very complicated, and it is a detriment to our district when our student leaves. So I would want to do everything I can to encourage our students to stay in our community and our schools. Unfortunately, when a parent makes a decision, that's kind of it. There's nothing that I, RJ Sheedy, if I become a school committee member, can do to convince them otherwise. So it's a right parents have. Nothing I can do about it. I wish every student and family in town would choose to send their kids to Milford, but they have rights and they have decisions that they need to make.
Thank you. Matt, what are your feelings about school choice?
Look, school choice is tough. It's as a parent, obviously you want to do what's best for your kids. So I don't think as a school committee we shut something down. I mean, we do owe it to our families to help them get the best education for their kids. But it is a loss. It is a loss. Willie's right. I mean, just this year alone, we've lost meaning sent out money, about $417,000. But it's not all doom and gloom. Obviously, we need to upgrade our buildings. So we need to bring in more programs potentially that may keep our kids' interest here. But the numbers are trending in a good direction, actually. Since hitting a peak in 2016, we've actually lowered our numbers year over year with kids that are leaving town, with the exception of this year. It's an 8-point difference between last year and this year where we've gone up. And I can account myself for 8 kids that I know of and families that I'm aware of that have left because of COVID, because they wanted a more stable schedule for their kids and they expected a smaller town to be able to give that, and that fit with their home life and their work life better than a full remote option. Also, on the other hand, we've had kids coming in more and more year over year since 2015. In fact, this year, we've had the 3rd highest number of kids coming into Milford to take advantage of our programs and our services than ever recorded. And that's going back to 1996. So certainly there's stuff we can work on because we're still letting a lot of kids go and they're obviously leaving for something that they don't believe they're going to get here. But Milford has a lot of benefits and diversity is actually one of them. I've talked to multiple parents in the last couple of weeks who said that they chose to raise their kids in this town in part because of our diversity and the benefits that come with having kids in those groups and classrooms. So certainly something we should focus on as a school committee and something that I would want to address. The more money we keep in, the more we can invest in our community.
Thank you. Chris, once again, we come around to school choice.
Well, it's certainly an issue that everybody agrees is significant enough to continue the conversation. You know, we're looking at a $2.7 million impact on our community. You know, we are seeing the school choice numbers going to neighboring districts kind of remaining relatively flat. But what really needs to be looked at is the number of students that are leaving to go to the charter schools. That has increased significantly. So we need to reassess why these students are leaving our district to the charter schools. And a year ago, we did a survey, and it was very inconclusive. There was a multitude of reasons why students were leaving Milford Public Schools. So there was no concrete answer. So there was it was hard to formulate a plan based on a lot of different data points. But that doesn't mean that we still should just put it away and can't talk about it anymore. We got to continue to talk about it. We've got to look at our programs within our school community and see, what type of growth and what kind of enrichment we can create to, again, looking at what looks like the charter schools are the biggest, factor of students leaving. What are the charter schools doing differently that are attracting students from Milford? And let's look at how we can enhance our education process to, again, kind of, keep that at a minimal level. School choice, it's always going to happen because, like we said, there are many reasons out there. But again, we need to at least try to control that cost.
Okay. I can bring up this subject because I am one of the families who came to Milford as immigrants and who walked out of my house on Water Street and found out the kids spoke a funny language. They spoke this English thing. So I got to go to school not knowing any English. A lot of parents worry about the effect on the educational process of having a large English language learning population. Meg, what do you feel about that?
I feel like it's time to change the conversation now and start talking about how it is one of our biggest assets. You know, we had the opportunity at the last school committee meeting to reflect upon some scholars who had received different awards, one of them being a Presidential Academic Achievement Award. Look at Milford's top students can run with the best of the best. Yes, we have a large number of English learners. I think that's great. I think my children are going to go to school with children that don't look like them, and I think they're going to be ready for the real world because of it. So I think it's time we start celebrating it.
Thank you. RJ, the effect of a diverse population on Milford schools.
The effect of the diverse population in our schools. What was the effect of me being in our schools? Nothing but positive, honestly. I think every student brings with them, a background of culture and diversity to our schools, and I think every edition of that culture, whether it's the Brazilians coming through town, or the Portuguese, or the whoever's here now, the Ecuadorians, the Guatemalans. It's great that Milford is such a worldly community, because I know we like to think Milford's the center of the universe, but there's a whole other world outside of Milford that we need to remember, and a lot of our students are going to take pathways that won't keep them here in the center of the universe. So I think being exposed to a diverse population early on in their lives really readies them for a experience with working with a diverse population. They have the knowledge of who they are and where they come from, and that's something that we as a district can teach our students just by that population that some of our surrounding communities don't have that opportunity to. So how do they affect our population? Positively. What else can I say?
Appreciate it. Matt, what are your feelings for how the school process is affected by having such a large immigrant population?
It's all positive. Not to be a buzzkill on the political game here, but it's all positive. It's different. This is a different town than it was when I grew up in the 90s. It was a different town than the 80s. Look, diversity is an asset. It's an absolute asset. There have been countless studies that show that kids in diverse schools and classrooms and groups, they learn more from each other. They gain interpersonal skills faster. You get to be around people of different backgrounds and different cultures. Everybody thinks differently in their different cultures, and you get to learn from that. And there's even studies out there that say that kids feel safer. They feel more included when they work in these groups. It's all positive. It's all positive, and I hope that we continue to embrace it and drive it forward.
Thank you. Chris, your thoughts? You're muted.
Sorry, thank you for that. So I can lean back on just what I do for work, and I'm constantly on the phone with people from other countries throughout the world. So we are a global economy. So I think it's important, and it's just a great way for students now to understand what their future is going to be like. Because again, you will be on the phone with people in Europe and over in Asia, or maybe down in South America. So we are a global economy. There are supports in place that allow for and help out our English language learners. It's our duty as a school that when a student shows up and they have a difficult time with the English language, we have those supports in place, and we're funded with those supports and initiatives to help them. So you could say, yes, it's a burden from the standpoint of, well, we need these new supports in place, but we're helping students be better students, be better learners. So when they do graduate and they move on within our Milford population, they are going to be, a great part of our community, and very helpful in our community and the next generation within our community. So, it's putting those supports in place, and that's our duty as a school system to help.
Thank you. Willie, your thoughts on the immigrant population's effect on our school system? You're muted.
Is that better? I apologize.
There you go.
I would like to say, as the only, I am the only diversity candidate running for school committee, but I would have phrased that question a little differently. We all know diversity is a good thing, and Milford has always been a community of immigrants. You can see this by taking a look at our very own town history. But with a question phrased like that in an environment with some people in our community blame diversity for the underperformance of our school district is not fair, and I don't think paints a complete picture. These misconceptions only continue to foster a divisive attitude and misunderstanding of the town's immigrant population. Let's look at some facts. District test results listed on the Massachusetts Department of Education website will reflect a district that underperforms across the board in most categories versus state averages. Our district is ranked 49% moderate progress towards goal as an overall assessment of our schools. Districts and schools with a target percentage of 75% or higher are considered to be meeting or exceeding targets. We are 49%, clearly not even close to exceeding targets. These scores are not just a result of having an immigrant population. These scores are the result of a community that has underfunded its schools for many years. As an example, Stacy Middle School has seen its population of ESL students grow drastically over the past 5 years by over 30%. But over that very same period of time, the district has only increased the ESL staff by 2 educators. Currently, Stacy Middle School needs 2 ESL teachers just to be in compliance with EL regulation. This information is reflected in the recent budget requested by the district. We cannot expect progress with our immigrant population without proper investments. We are not even in EL compliance in some areas. Moderate progress will not close the gaps that currently exist. If you want someone who will focus on getting the resources to all children in Milford, then vote for me. I have the experience, the vision, and the courage needed to get the results our community needs and deserves.
Thank you. RJ, you're given a magic wand. You can add one new initiative. What would that be?
Oh, I love the magic wands. The career counselor, honestly, at the high school, I already talked about this earlier in one of my answers. We have students in our school systems that are not on the college pathway. And they, for whatever reason, maybe they didn't apply to BBT, maybe they didn't get into BBT, maybe, they just moved here or whatever. But like, we as a district need to provide opportunities to them so they can have the work experience while in our school. So when they leave our schools, they're prepared for a life after school. We have guidance counselors in our schools, and they're fantastic. They do a great job with getting kids registered for class and getting kids, registered for college, and they do great work with that. But the story is they're not people who expertise lie in helping students network with building trades and different job opportunities that are out there. That's just not their role. That's not their expertise. And I think Josh Otlin, our principal of the high school, has done a great job at shining the light on the fact that we need more of these voc tech options, like the hotel hospitality management program, which is shut down now because of COVID. And so yeah, honestly, the one thing that I want to see more of is more opportunities at our high school for students who aren't on a college path. And I think the addition of a career counselor in our high school would do wonders for that. I know it's just a budget proposal right now. If I had the magic wand, it'd be in. Since I don't, I would want to see that happen in our schools.
Thanks, RJ. And I'm going to have to limit everybody to 1 minute because we're getting down. Matt, magic wand, one initiative. What would it be?
Look, magic wand, it's the workforce readiness. Absolutely agree with RJ on this one. It's 2021. Okay, STEM programs, Project Lead the Way. That stuff is going to give people the experience and the excitement and the hands-on training to get to understand what a lot of the most in-demand leading industries that seem to be always short on talent are looking for. And it's one way to make sure that our kids can have some sort of focus forward to understand what their future could hold. It could help them in choosing a college. It could help them in choosing a career. It would be incredibly important to give them that opportunity.
Thank you. Chris, 1 minute. I bet you never heard me say, what initiative would you like?
Well, much like the other two speakers and candidates, I was also in favor of expanding, career readiness programs. But I'm going to speak to enrichment then. It would be another program that I would want to look at down in the elementary schools. And I think what we would do is I would reach out to the administration and pinpoint, areas of need and areas of focus, and then continue to grow those needs and focus. So enrichment at the lower level, elementary schools, I think would be a great, programs to bring forward as initiatives.
Great. Willie, one initiative, one magic wand you can wave.
Although I think that's a fair question, I think my concerns and why I'm running focus more than just a program to add or cut. I believe if we do not increase our budget, discussing adding programs is a moot point, because by doing so, we'll be left to focus on where to make more cuts in other areas while continuing to stay on the cusp of compliance. I think by voting for me, you'll be voting for someone who will work alongside the Finance Committee to address the gaps that exist in our budget. I promise to help create a greater sense of urgency and formulate a strategy to deal with the lack of space at Stacy Middle School while creating a long-term solution for the high school. The time to act is now, and I believe I have the experience, the vision, and the leadership to lead. If you want positive change, please vote for me.
Meg, you get one initiative.
Okay, one initiative. I think, again, it would also be in the area of workforce development. I would defer to the high school in terms of their direction, be it advanced manufacturing or buildings trade, but a complete shop with a curriculum that we can really just be sending kids out with complete hands-on experience.
Okay, Meg, we're down to the 1 minute mark. I'm from Milford. Why should I vote for you?
Absolutely. Thanks, Al. I hope that I earn your vote on April 6th because I'm a hard worker, an effective listener, and a great collaborator. I think I've worked hard in the past 3 years on school committee, and I think there's a lot more I could accomplish in the next 3.
Willie, I'm from Milford. Why should I vote for you?
I know I've covered a lot today, but I want to recap some key areas of focus I highlighted. As a community, we have not properly been allocating to our school district. The town's budget history clearly reflects that we have not had a meaningful increase in allocation to the budget in over 17 years, yet enrollment continues to grow. I shared with you the findings from the 2018 feasibility study that was conducted by the school committee, and it clearly indicates the Milford High School and Stacy Middle School are in need of serious renovations or complete replacement, but yet there are no formal plans in place on how to move forward almost 3 years after those findings. I promise to bring a sense of urgency and collaboration to make sure that as a community, we understand the issues we face in our school district. The gap in the education of our community is only growing bigger and larger as more time grows, and our children don't have time to waste. I will provide the transparency needed to build a sense of urgency. And again, I look forward to working with everyone. I appreciate everyone's time today, and I hope I can earn everyone's vote. Thank you very much.
Chris, why should I vote for you?
Thank you, Al, again, for having me on the show. It's been a great opportunity to reach out to your voters. I just want to continue on with the experience that I've learned through my first term on school committee and the oversight and the purpose that we serve on school committee. I've been in this town for 20 years. It's where I call home, with my wife who's in education and my 2 children that have grown up within the Milford public school systems. And I truly believe they've gotten a very good education. So again, just want to continue to oversee this educational process, the budget, to ensure that the next generation of Milford learners have the best opportunities possible.
Thank you. Matt, I'm from Milford. Why should I vote for you?
Thanks, Al. Look, we talked about it a lot tonight. Okay, Milford's a great community. It's a strong system, but we have needs. We need to advance our technology. We need to update some of our buildings. We need to make sure we're ready and prepared to support our growing demographics. All of that translates to most in dollar signs. Okay, Willie's right. Everything costs money and we need more of it. Our budget has been going up, okay, but our town can be doing more. So we need a leader who's going to be able to do more of a mid-range and long-range plan and work with our administration and honestly urge and demand from them that we start planning out further so that we have a plan in place and we can be strategic with our town representatives in funding all of these very important initiatives. And I believe I am that leader that can help our town. hopefully I earned everybody's vote at some point over the next couple weeks.
Thank you. RJ, I'm from Milford. Why should I vote for you?
All right, race to the finish. Well, I would hope that you would vote for me for school committee because my unique perspective and knowledge, I think, will bring a clear value to the school committee as we face the challenges ahead. Honestly, speaking for myself, I have had a long interest in serving on the school committee, and I believe that at this time, we all need to give back to our community where we see we best can. And I really hope you and the viewers at home trust me when I say that I know that my place for me is at the school committee. And I really hope to have you and everybody else's vote come April 6th.
And as always, I thank all of you. All 5 of you are a unique breed. We need more people like you because everybody, as I mentioned in my mind, has an opinion. Everybody can tell me things should be better. We should have better scores. We should have better this, better that. And I'm always tempted to say, well, what are you going to do about it? You 5 are standing up saying, put me in, coach. I can make a difference in this. And you're trying to make a difference in the most important aspect of my life, which are my kids. I think we now have 4,500 kids that I have to worry about being on the FinCom. And every one of them is no more special, no less special than the others. So I thank you from all the parents and all the residents, because even people who don't have kids in the school system benefit from people like you trying to make the school better because our property values go up. But more importantly, the success of our kids goes up. And that's something we all should strive for. To our 6 loyal viewers, and typically for the show like this, we get a couple more. Thank you for joining. As I've always said, I will never ask you, it's not my place, to vote for any specific candidate, but I'll beg you to vote. Of these 5 people, all worthy, pick the 3 that you best think, that you think will best serve your views, that you think will best help our 4,500 kids. And on April 6th, please get out there and vote. If you can't stand listening to a fat old ball man like me for a while, then go to the high school where they have candidates night. Read the town crier where they interview people. Look at the citizens from Milford. There's a ton of opportunities to get to know each of these people and what they stand for. But again, please, I beg you, get out and vote and make a contribution. Thank you again to everybody. Good night.
Not too long since I've been home. Been running all my life just searching for my soul.